Welcome everyone to the Inspiring Ohana series. Today I am excited to talk with Mark Jones. Mark is a community group leader, a Salesforce professional. Welcome, Mark. Thank you very much for joining. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm very glad to be here. I'm doing good.
Awesome. So, Mark, please share something about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 5 years now. I co-lead the Newcastle upon Tyne user group and a solo admin for a non-profit in the Newcastle Gateshead area.
Awesome. Can you please share your Salesforce story, like how you started your journey and how it's going on?
Sure, absolutely. So my story was in getting involved with Salesforce was actually came out of a job interview, of all things. So I went for a job interview for a charity that was based in as well the Newcastle Gateshead area. And during the job interview, the manager of the company asked me if I'd seen Salesforce before because they were about to implement an org, and me being a bit slightly naive, probably answering the question, I said yes, I've seen it because I had seen Salesforce before, but hadn't done anything with it. I got offered the job, and on my first day in the job, my manager turned around to me and goes, "Right, Mark, you're developing our Salesforce org for us from scratch." So that was how I got into it. So that was a big learning curve, going from like not really having done any work with it, but just seeing the platform, um, to having to develop an org from scratch, was a bit of a a bit of a big ask to start with. But that's how lots of probably accident admins start the journey out. Just getting a job and getting told, okay, this is what you're doing, and realizing, oh, I've got to learn so much straight away very quickly.
And how trailhead learning was helpful in your journey?
Yeah, well, I I've got probably a bit more of an interesting journey with Trailhead than I would have like to have said, because uh, I didn't know Trailhead was a thing until a year into my journey with Salesforce. It wasn't until I went to the company I'm in now that I discovered Trailhead, and so I started learning on that, and that's been a very helpful tool in my journey. A bit more so certainly recently, because at the time of recording, I'm now a two-time ranger, having become a two-time ranger within the span of about 3 weeks, actually. So I decided to set a goal if I wanted to become a one-time ranger in 2021. Managed to achieve that in December, and continued learning through doing badges I wanted to do, and some badges I haven't done that I probably should have done like 4 years ago, and now become a two-time ranger. And that's also in large part through taking part in the 100 Days of Trailhead campaign, which I'm sure many of your listeners will have heard of before, that Jessica Murphy and Rachel Watson lead on. And that's a fantastic thing to have been involved in.
Wow, what a dedication for learning. And you started a community group, you are a community group leader. So, what is the motivation? Like, how you came to group leader journey? I'm excited to hear that journey as well.
Yeah, sure. So how I became a community group leader was just simply born out of, in part, a little bit of frustration and isolation on my part, because I was, as I said, a solo admin, and I've been a solo admin now for 4 of those 5 years that have been in the ecosystem for, and in the position I was in and the charity I was working in, I had nobody to talk to at the times where I wanted somebody to talk to about Salesforce and some things I was maybe trying to get my head around, some things I hadn't gotten to Trailhead about, because sometimes it's great just to have somebody either on the other end of a screen like this, other end of the phone, or other end of a table to talk to and ask questions. And I realized that there wasn't just me using Salesforce in the area. There wasn't just me as an admin in the area. There's quite a big pool of us in the northeast of England. Uh, but none of us were really communicating as such. We were all working in our own organizations. So I just kind of looked at it and goes, well, surely I can set up a group. And so I looked into that through the community program, put an application in and started doing that. And one of the best things about this journey is how I'm no longer on my own as a lead in that group. In last summer became co-leader, because the interesting story with that was somebody else at around the same time decided to start a group for exactly the same kind of group of people that I was looking at, which was admins at the time, now a general user group. So somebody else in the area had started a group as well. And we started talking, and just read, we're both doing exactly the same thing. We're both having groups that's literally in the same place. Why don't we join up together, work together, and make a really good group? And that's been a really great journey. I've been doing that with a guy called Luke, and he's, it's been a fantastic journey to be involved in that. And we've just had our first event of 2021 just this past Thursday. But we started our first event in February last year.
Well, so the motive was to sharing our knowledge together and learn together. How you feel empowered from group leader journey for yourself?
Yeah, well, in the north of England, we've got a really good crop of group leaders around. Some names that people might know, like Phil Walton, Jonathan Fox, who was recently on Inspiring Ohana. He has just recently stepped back from being the Leeds group leader with his new job at Salesforce. And there's many other names I can cite. So there's a lot of great people in the north of England leading groups across the whole of the north of England. And that's felt really, really good, because one of the things with that is when you've got a good group of people around you, they support you, they encourage you, and you can also get really good inspiration from what they're doing as well. Closer to home, it's just great just having an environment where you've got people from your area coming in who want to learn about Salesforce, who are just as passionate about Salesforce as you are, have similar journeys, and it's just great to kind of to relate to people. And so I want to continue that, and that's really kind of like an amazing thing. And actually listening to some of the conversations we've had over the last year and looking into other ways that I can help the group, encourage the group to learn on their own as well, has pushed me to learn for myself as well. So it's kind of a bit of a twofold thing,
It's very interesting. Like, yeah, as you mentioned, common interest. Like, people are gathering together, and we all have common interest, like learning Salesforce, sharing about the Salesforce. So, any message or any success tips you wanted to give someone who is very new and they are just started their group? So, how you suggest, like, how should they be a successful in their group leader journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things I would mention, and the first one is look for people that you can connect with who are other group leaders, whether or not they're in your local area or not. But find people that you can talk to, that you can chat to through the chat groups that we have for group leaders, through LinkedIn, through Twitter as well. Find people around, because again, there's a load of great leaders worldwide, not just here in the North of England where I'm based, but across the world. There's a real big pool of fantastic group leaders. So find ways to connect with some of them. Other things you can do, go along to some of their events as well. Support them and what they're doing. And what you'll find by going along to their events is you'll get ideas for what you can do for your events as well. And one of a bit of advice I would give as well is a bit of advice that was given to me, which is run events that you would want to attend. Because one of the things you'll find is if you're putting on events that you would want to go to yourself, you will be able to advertise them in a way that gets people to want to come along and for themselves, because they can see how interested you are on the topic, how passionate you are on that, and and that's great. One other final piece I would actually give as well is about just being a little bit patient with things. Sometimes groups take a while to get off the ground. It's taken about a year for us to kind of get into a place where we've got a consistent base of users, especially with the fact that our first event was done with people in person, and then our second event was virtual due to the global pandemic. So there's been a massive shift into how we engage with people. Doing stuff online opens up possibilities to engage with people worldwide, not just within your local area. But it can also be a bit of a challenge to try and engage with people in your local area at the same time. So give yourself a little bit of breathing room, give yourself a little bit of patience on that, and just if you the work you put into it, it will come out in the end, and you'll reap the benefits from that.
Okay, and many people ask us like how should I start giving back. So, what is your suggestion? Like, how can they start giving back? They can share their knowledge. Any tips?
Yeah, sure. One of the things I would say on that is that uh, sometimes you might think that your skills aren't good enough necessarily to pass on to other people. But the reality is, no matter where you are on your journey, whether you're at the very beginning or you've been doing Salesforce for 10 plus years, you've got something to give. You'll find that. So in terms of giving something back, there's things you can do. You can obviously start a community group of your own if there's not one in your area. You can look for groups that are around that you can maybe try and support. There's plenty of different types of groups. If you're more interested in supporting non-profits, you can look for a non-profit group in your area. Same if you're interested in supporting women in technology, women in tech groups. So you can look for ways to get involved and support. Look for opportunities to maybe to support people through things like mentorship. You can do that as well. And simply, that just looking at giving back in that capacity can be really helpful. And there's other things you can do as well, like get involved in the Answers community as well. And you can even just get involved with groups on Facebook, again, Twitter, conversations, LinkedIn. There's so many opportunities in front of us where we can give back in some capacity. So what my advice would be is find your fit within that, find what you feel works for you at this point in time, start with that and build upon that. You don't want to do too much where you burn yourself out, but you want to do it, what you want to give back. And what you'll find is as you give back, you'll be able to give more back in the long run.
Yes, you have said very interesting thing. Like find your way. We have answer community. You can give answer there. We have groups. You can reach out to group leaders to discuss like how you can help. Wow. And since we are talking about group leader journey, so I want to understand your view. How you decide which topic will be presented in next meetup? Like how you plan the topic for next meetup?
Yeah, so how our group has been doing that, so we've chatted amongst ourselves as group leaders around kind of what could we cover. We've also been a little bit fortunate as well, where we've been to some different events and we've ended up connecting with people at those events, and the conversations organically produce sessions out of it. So like this year, for example, we've just had our first event last week, and that was booked in by me kind of looking at the 100 Days of Trailhead campaign, and that's what our last session was about, and going, actually, I want to encourage our community to get involved in that. So let's ask Rachel and Jessica if they're happy to speak. They said yes, and on that, we've also got events booked in where they've just come about naturally we've had people reach out to us saying, "Oh, can we sponsor your group?" We've also had events booked in because somebody on Twitter, Johan Furman, was tweeting about potential session ideas. It goes, "Would anybody like me to deliver it?" Hopped on Twitter, goes, "Yes, please." And so that's kind of how. So we've been quite fortunate in that respect, but we did an activity this week actually in our user group event where we got the group to kind of put in stuff in Mentimeter to kind of go, what do you want to see in the future? And going forward, we'll be using those points that came through to kind of direct us in how we put together events going forward. That can be sometimes a challenge. Sometimes getting feedback from group members can be quite a challenge. But you can maybe do an activity like that where you can do like make a game of it as for one of your events, and use that feedback from that game going into your future sessions. That's how we're doing it at this moment.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's all about group members, how they are excited for which topics. And yeah, awesome. And you also just mentioned about the answer community. So any experience you want to share about the answering or mentorship?
Yeah, sure, can do. So to be quite honest, I haven't answered as many questions as I would like to, but have I've certainly asked quite a few questions. It's a very easy area within the Trailblazer community side to access and navigate, and there's some really good questions on there as well. So I would just encourage you, if you've got questions, go into the answer community, search to see if something similar has been put in, and then ask the question. If you see a question that is on there and you know you've got the answer to, chip in. That's something I'll be aiming to do a lot more going forward. In terms of the mentorship side, there's different ways you can get involved in things like so you can apply through the mentorship program to be mentored, which is also really good thing if you're particularly at the beginning of your journey, or if you're at a place where you want to look at how can you maybe change your career, moving from, say, for example, you want to move from an admin role to a CTA or move to a business analyst role, for example. You could look at using a mentor to help you in that part of your journey. And you could also apply to be a mentor yourself through that. It's quite an easy way to navigate through that. You can do that via the Trailhead website. And that is a really good thing to be involved in. And I think with the mentorship, you've also got to be understanding that what you're doing is you're taking time out to really invest in somebody else and to help them and support them on their journey. So it's something to consider, and it's a really good thing to do if you can do it and you can make the time to do it.
Awesome. So your various ways like go start answering or apply for mentorship program, help other people, and you also apply as a mentee to take help from other. Nice. So any success message, success tips, generic, like for someone who is starting their Salesforce career and someone who is looking for new role, or as you mentioned, somebody planning, I am admin, I am looking for long-term goal as CTA. So what tips you will give? How they should, make priority for learning?
Yeah, absolutely. So tips I would give for learning is one of the ones I would straight away recommend would be something like 100 Days of Trailhead, which I've been taking part in. What that does is that encourages you to spend an hour a day learning. So that helps you to structure your time in terms of learning, because that's one of the biggest challenges with learning is to start by making that time. Once you get that side of things right in your mind and in your approach, then the rest, as they say, would be plain sailing in terms of your learning. Once you can get the pattern sorted out for what works for you in your routine, then you can really build upon that. Obviously, on top of that, you Trailhead is the place to go for Salesforce learning. look into doing like trails and trail mixes around the areas that you're looking to develop in and the areas that you're interested in. Look into completing super badges. Look into getting certifications. If you don't have any certifications, or if you don't have certifications in the area that you're looking to move into, look into what certifications you will need to get into that area. In terms of learning as well, the mentorship program, that's again another great resource to use, because you can learn just as much from being a mentor as you can from being a mentee, because you can learn just as much from the people that you mentor than the ones that mentor you. So looking back from that as well is a really good way to do it. There's other fantastic resources out there as well. You can check out many great blogs like Salesforce Ben, for example, is tremendous in terms of helping you look through that. And they've actually recently posted like a tutorial one, which is quite an interesting one on how to put your Twitter profile on the Salesforce login page, as an example. So you can do lots of different stuff with that. There's also great books and great podcasts out there. The Mums on Cloud 9 podcast is one I actually listen to quite a bit from the Super Mums team with Heather Black. And there's also, you see, a bevy of books out there, depending on what subject you're interested in. So there's, again, the world's your oyster in terms of what you can do in terms of learning, and also depending on what kind of style of learner that you are.
Yes, very well said. Like, make the list like what you are going to learn. Awesome. Okay, so any upcoming meetup in your group you want to share, or are you planning any new next meetup?
Yeah, so actually our next meetup is due to happen on the 26th of February. It is going to be a virtual event. We haven't published it yet. We are finalizing the last little bits and pieces before we publish it, but it is happening on the 26th of February. And we are doing our session around the Trailhead Go mobile application, to follow up on the event that we've just had. Because one thing that I wanted to show off is, if we're going to kind of really encourage people to make 2021 a year of learning for them, which was our theme last week, theme this week, is actually using something like the Trailhead Go app can really help with that. Because if you're, say, you've got a 30-minute break, or you're standing in the queue at the shop and you're waiting to get your groceries in, and you're standing in the queue, you could go for a unit while you're sitting in the shopping queue, looking at trails that you're interested in. So we're doing our event on the Trailhead Go app. We'll be showing off, hopefully, what's coming up with the new release version through the test flight beta that's just been released this week. So hopefully we'll be showing that, as well as the current Android version, is our hope.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Now, beta version of Trailhead Go is available for everyone, where they can collaborate in our Trailhead community, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the new beta that's coming out, they're bringing in the community aspect from trailblazers.salesforce.com side of things. So you'll be able to find the chatter groups that you're a part of on there. You will be able to look at like messages and things like that. I'm very interested to try the beta out myself. I haven't downloaded it just yet because I just saw the news yesterday, but I will be downloading that today, and trying that out myself. With thankfully having an iPad as well as an Android device, I have one device I can try it out on. But that's something I would also recommend people do as well. Try the beta, because that community feature that's coming across will be a fantastic benefit going forward when that becomes generally available in the spring 21 release.
Yes, I also loved that. Like, sharing something, and, maybe I'm going to comment on some post I can do from my mobile itself.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, sir, thank you very much for joining. Very interesting talk today. Let's summarize our talk, and any final message, anything you want to share, please.
Yeah, sure. So just on the way out, just like to say again, thank you for having me on, and to anybody who is listening, one of the things I would encourage you really to keep in mind is that, again, no matter how far in the journey you are, you do have something to give, and you do have a community behind you that is willing to support you. So spend the time to get involved in the community. Find those people on Twitter, find those people on LinkedIn, through the different chapter groups in the Trailblazer community. Get involved, and you won't be disappointed.
Yes, thank you for adding. And this is the goal of this talk. We are talking, and maybe at least one people can inspire, they can learn from our discussion. Then this is success of this talk. And I am very, grateful for you to giving your time for this talk. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you very much for having me on. It's been great to be here.
Bye bye. Take care.